But let's talk about JD Vance, because I too think that I thought that the pick of him was an encouraging sign for me.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because first of all, the successor wasn't going to be his own son. I mean, I was relieved that it wasn't the dynastic bullshit that I think he really motivates him. Secondly, because I think JD Vance is a serious person. I think he's thought about the world. And I do think that if conservatism is going to adjust to understanding the plight of the white and non-white working class in America, to understand the impact of immigration, to understand the impact of really free trade and globalization, then it needs someone like JD Vance. But at the same time, I think the things that Trump has done that JD Vance has excused renders Vance extremely tainted.
You know, I see why you say that. And as your listeners may or may not know, I'm personal friends with JD and have been since the book came out, Hillbilly Elegy. But I have not had anything but the most minimal contact with him since he was named. Just texted him to wish him congratulations, and that's about it. But, you know, I don't know what he really thinks about what's going on. JD was very pro-life. He's a Catholic convert. And now he's signed on to Trump's, moderation on the issue, you might say. But I know JD did tell me the only thing we've had back and forth with each other is he said that he's not going to overshadow the big guy, Trump. And so as one would expect, the number two is going to take the line of the number one. Now, I know a lot of people are going to think that, as you say, that it's tainted him beyond acceptability. But I don't really think so. I think the thing that turned him, Andrew, on Trump was the Kavanaugh situation back, I think that was 2018. JD and his wife Usha were personal friends with Kavanaugh. And when they saw what the Democrats did to try to destroy that man, I think it red-pilled him because he was a fairly moderate center-right guy, did not like Trump at all. But I think it made him realize that these people in power are willing to do anything, destroy anybody to keep their power. And again, we haven't talked about it, but I noticed a big change in him in our general conversation after Kavanaugh.
That's interesting because many conservatives who have radicalized in a way have had a set of ideas and then been radicalized in some ways by their experience among their fellow elites.
Yeah.
The hostility, the loathing, the contempt, the condescension. Trust me, Ron, I get it, because what the gay left has done to me over the years, I've been non-person, basically.
Yeah.
And the attempt to destroy every part of you and to be personal, to show up at your house, to invade your private correspondence, or this kind of stuff, which they exult in, and the ganging up on individuals that they can pick off in an employment situation, all that stuff is so awful. But one thing I always say to myself is, don't get bitter. Do not give up your principles because you've just started hating the other side so much that that's all that really matters. And I honestly think that that's a real temptation, that you just give in to the hatred of the other side.
Andrew, and that's an important point. But there were two things that made me realize I've got to vote for Trump, even though I don't like the man and don't trust him. I was a DeSantis guy, right? The first one was what happened to Judge Kyle Duncan out at Stanford Law School. You might remember this. Kyle Duncan is on the Fifth Circuit. He was a Trump appointee. He's a personal friend of mine. I know him to be a man of utter decency and rationality. He goes out to Stanford to give a talk to the law school, and the students refuse to listen to him. And the DEI dean comes in there and basically tells him in front of the students that it's his fault for coming there and being offensive to them with his views. When I saw what they did, and knowing that these kids, these students, are going to be the elites in this country, I was more worried about what they mean for the country and for people like me than these jackasses who rioted on January the 6th. The second thing that happened, and now that I think about it, probably happened before then, was after January 6th, Bill Cassidy, one of the Louisiana senators, a Republican, voted to impeach Trump. He caught hell from a lot of Louisiana Republicans. I was living in Baton Rouge at the time. And he's a friend of mine, and I think he voted correctly to impeach Trump for that. I wrote a letter to the editor of the local paper defending Cassidy. And in the letter, I said, yes, President Trump did some good things, but it's not enough. What he did on January 6th is just intolerable. So I support Bill Cassidy. Got a text that morning, Andrew, from a woman, a very, very left-wing woman who was a friend of mine for 40 years from childhood. I loved her so much, I named my daughter after her, even though we don't see eye to eye on politics. She ended our friendship that morning over my letter to the editor. I said, wait a minute, did you understand I'm supporting the impeachment? She said, yeah, but you said Trump did some good things. We can't be friends. The fact that I didn't hate Trump with sufficient purity was enough for her to end a 40-year friendship. And that scared the hell out of me.